was Jesus born in? Last month of the year, what month was Jesus born in? Last month of the year, was it January? No, no, January, no, no. March, April, May, no, no. June, July, August, September, October, November. Was the 25th day of December? Was the last month of the year. He was born of the Virgin Mary. Last month of the year, he was born of the Virgin Mary. Last month of the year, was it January? No, no. February? No, no. March, April, May? No, no, no. June, July, August, September, October, November. Was the 25th day of December? Was the last month of the year. He was wrapped in swaddling clothing. Last month of the year, he was wrapped in swaddling clothing. Last month of the year, was it January? No, no. January? No, no. March, April, May? No, no, no. June, July, August, September, October, November. Was the 25th day of December? Was the last month of the year. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May God's face shine upon you. Oh, may your countenance be lifted up. Oh, may God keep you in perfect peace. Peace be unto you. God's peace abide when you are far from home. May God be there right by your side. Oh, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May God's face shine upon you. Oh, may your countenance be lifted up. Oh, may God keep you in perfect peace. Was it January? No, no. February? No, no. March, April, May? No, no, no. June, July, August, September, October, November. Was the 25th day of December? Was the last month of the year.
Phil and I want to take a few moments and just share with you some thoughts this morning about our upcoming trip to Tanzania. And you might be asking yourself, well, that's great. It's good that they're concerned about others. But why are they concerned about people halfway around the world? Why not in our own country? We have plenty of people that need help right here. And you're right. Those are great questions, questions that Phil and I have grappled with ourselves. But yet at the same time, we are concerned about our neighbors here in Portage. We're concerned about other people in our country. And even though life can bring us struggles and hard times, I believe that life here does not compare to life in a developing country, where there's no supports, there's no infrastructure. In 2005, I took my first overseas trip to an orphanage in Sri Lanka, which is an island off India. I went with an organization out of England, so I didn't know anyone going on the trip, and I traveled there by myself. Phil thought I was a little bit crazy, but I knew I was blessed to be living in the United States. And I thought I should share my time and my financial resources with others. But I wasn't prepared for what God had in store for me. It was the first time in my life that I realized I was not only blessed, but I'm privileged. I'm privileged by so many things I could never name them all. I'm privileged in the choice of food I have to eat every single day. And being able to cook food quickly instead of cooking all day over an open fire. Having electricity and lights after dark. Taking a warm shower or a bath. Even the games and toys that I'm able to do with grandkids or with children. What amazed me though first on my first trip to Sri Lanka was that the optimism and joy that I encountered from the adults, but more importantly the children there. They didn't feel like they were missing something, but instead they encountered each day with joy and positive energy. So, as a Christian, I believe that we are to be with our brothers and sisters in developing countries, where there are no supports for poor, no medical assistance, no food stamps, no food pantries, no Medicare, no Social Security. Many times I find myself wondering, why? Why, God, was I born in a country with all these privileges and not in a developing country? Why? But then I hear that voice. Of those to whom much has been given, much will be required. So with love in our hearts and gratitude for the blessings and the privileges that we have, I believe we're sent forth to be God's blessings for someone else.
One of the things that I look forward to is experiencing working alongside volunteers from other countries. So there are other countries that will be present, I'm assuming. I know there's just a small group coming from the U.S. Out of Indiana, and I think there's one couple from New Mexico. But there'll be other volunteers there from other parts of the world, all of us Methodist United. In fact, one of the pictures you saw was actually the church, which I'm looking forward to experiencing. What does a Methodist church look like in Tanzania? I don't speak Swahili, so I probably won't do too well at communicating, but I am looking forward to that experience. The other things that I'm looking forward to, besides working alongside other volunteers, is experiencing the culture. And so working alongside the Maasai, whose homeland is in the area where the Olula Orphan Program is, will be an experience that I'm looking forward to. So I'm going to be working. It's not a vacation, but it's to work alongside other people, helping our brothers and sisters so that they can survive. The foundation, IOP, is founded on the belief that through education, they can disrupt the cycle of poverty and disease. And so there are actually, when you talk about disease, I hadn't thought about this, but the girls living at the orphanage, and it's a small number, it's about 30, but they're there because their families have died. You know, diseases that are very treatable here aren't treatable. There's not the infrastructure like Barb mentioned, and so there are children that are now orphaned. The options, especially for girls in a developing country, are not good in terms of how do you survive. And so the orphanage offers an alternative to that. But I'm anxious to see what does a school look like in Tanzania, in a developing country. And then the other thing that I'm really excited to see, as I already mentioned, is going to church in a Methodist church in Tanzania. I mean, it'll just be a new experience. And I think what I look forward to is coming back here and sharing with you the outcome of that trip. What did it feel like? I mean, I'll be your feet on the ground there, but we want to share what you're doing. This is your work, you know, God's work through us as a congregation. So I'm anxious to come back here and share that with you. We hope to be able to interview Boaz, who's one of the students we've sponsored now, who enters the university. He's going to be pursuing some sort of a medical degree, which, you know, certainly there's a need for that in Tanzania. And so we want to interview Boaz and bring back, you know, that message to you from him, somebody that you're making a difference in his life, and then we're helping in Tanzania. So again, I want to be able to share how those lives have been touched, how we're touching lives, and then certainly I know one outcome is that I'll be changed. I can't imagine going there and living alongside people living in that situation and not coming back changed. I'm sure I'll be sensitized to things that I never thought about before, and I'm looking forward to that. I want to see my life change and to grow in the way that Christ wants me to grow. And so again, I want to share that with you so that it too can be a blessing in your life. So again, thanks for all you're doing. Thank you.
Now, as for the people who were left in the land of Judah, the ones who the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar left behind, well, the king appointed Gedaliah, the son of Ahikam, to be governor. Now, when all of the local warlords and their soldiers heard about the appointment of Gedaliah as governor, they came to Gedaliah and had a meeting in Mizpah. Now, this group particularly included Ishmael, the son of Nethaniah, and also Johanan, the son of Kareah, as well as some others, along with their troops. Gedaliah reassured them, saying, "Do not be afraid of the Babylonians. If we live in the land and serve the king of Babylon, it will go well for us." And it came about that in the 7th month, that Ishmael, who is actually of the royal family, came along with 10 men and struck Gedaliah down and killed him, along with the Judeans who were there with him, and also along with the Babylonians who were with him. And after this, many people, both important and not important, fled to Egypt out of fear for Babylonian reprisal. Is really interesting to me because it actually sounds like it could have happened now or any time in the last 15 years. We know more about it than what's here in 2 Kings because it turns out that the prophet Jeremiah is actually active during this period of time, and so the story is also recorded in the book of Jeremiah where we get some additional details. And so I need to kind of lay this out for you so you understand what's happening. The Babylonians have expanded their empire, and part of that expansion has included the annexation of Judah as a client state, vassal state. And at first, they leave they kind of do a little minor regime change. They sort of swap out the kings, but they basically leave the royal family in charge. But that doesn't go well, so they haul them all away and instead set up a Judean provisional government. This government, the guy who's put in charge to be the governor of Judea, is a guy named Gedaliah, and he, of course, has the Babylonian military advisors are with him, and Gedaliah gathers together now Gedaliah, we don't know much about him. I mean, we're not told if he's a warlord or if he's just a tribal elder, but something like that. But he pulls in the other tribal elders and the other warlords, and he has a conversation with them, and he says, it'll be okay. The best thing to do, go along to get along. Babylonians are going to treat us fairly. They've reassured me of this. So let's do what we can to kind of pull together. Let's see if we can make this work, okay? And they did, actually. They had a bumper crop that year, and everyone pulled together. They had a really good harvest. Things went really well. There was actually, the sort of a recovery, economic recovery was starting to happen in Judah. It was going pretty nicely. But one of the neighboring kingdoms, the kingdom of the Ammonites, you have to understand something, that when there's this sort of imperial expansion, whether it's a true empire, as in the ancient world, or in modern world, it's more like influence, right? The expansion of influence. When this happens, one of the things that neighboring kingdoms want to do to kind of hamper that expansion of influence is they want to create and sow chaos on the fringes of that sphere of influence, which they do by funneling money and weapons into emerging insurgencies. Okay, so in this way, for example, many of the Arab states funnel money and weapons into Palestine to keep the Palestinian insurgency going, and what this does is that helps contain a powerful Israel when in Iraq, Iran was funneling money and weapons into Iraq in order to, financially support a growing insurgency to keep things unstable, so that that would contain the growing influence of the United States in the Middle East, and just keep going down the line. I mean, this stuff just keeps going. But this is a common practice. And so the Ammonite king starts funding a growing insurgency of the monarchists led by Ishmael, because they want the monarchy back, even though the economy is doing good. And how dare they have a civil government under a governor, under the rulership of the Babylonian king? This is terrible. And so they're holding this within them. Now, Johanan, that was another name you heard in the list. Johanan actually supports the Judean provisional government. And so he gets wind of what's happening and learns about a specific thing. He learns that Ishmael intends to assassinate Gedaliah. So he comes to Gedaliah and he says, hey, we have actionable intelligence. Ishmael is planning to kill you. And you should know this. Now, Gedaliah's reaction is, no, that can't be true. We had dinner together, right? Laws of hospitality apply. We all gathered together and we ate together. So there shouldn't be any problem here. And just look at the economy. Things are going well. Why should they want to assassinate us? Why should they want to undo the progress we've made? That does not make any sense. Johanan kind of pulls. Now, this part was apparently public, so it's hard to say how much of. I think Johanan probably assumed that Gedaliah was being political, because they had a private conversation later that went something like this. Johanan says, okay, I understand what you had to say for everyone to hear. Now, just give me the word, and I will disappear that guy. We will run a black op. We will kill him. No one will know. It'll never get back to you. You will have plausible deniability, and you will be safe. Just give me the word. And Gedaliah's response is, why are you saying all this bad stuff about Ishmael? He had dinner with us. He seemed like a really decent guy. He's honorable. He's from a good family. There's nothing to worry about. And so it was in the 7th month that Ishmael came to dinner. Dinners are not like in your house. I mean, we are talking about a sort of a public event, a feast. But now they're sharing table again, and this is really a big deal. Perfectly safe when you share a table with somebody. And it's right in the middle of dinner that Ishmael rises up with 10 guys who are with him, and they kill Gedaliah. They kill the Babylonian military advisors. They kill the other Judean members of the sort of provisional government. They kill them all. It's a mess. It's a bloody slaughter, and it's a huge violation of the laws of hospitality. And then, in fact, it turns out the next day there's a group of people arriving to do a lamentation offering to the Lord. And when they arrive, they're welcomed by Ishmael, who then proceeds to kill them. Except for a couple who go, wait, don't kill us. We have treasures buried in the field. Would you like to know where they are? And apparently the answer was yes. It was a mess. This is a really bad thing. And then, of course, immediately the Babylonians are like, their troops are coming in, and there's this immediate response. And so out of this is another exodus to Egypt. People flee to Egypt to escape the potential Babylonian reprisal. This includes Ishmael, and this includes a lot of, including apparently a lot of the warlords who had nothing to do with it. They were just like, uh-oh, We're getting out of here. We do not want to be swept up in this. And they just flee. All right, so here's the thing that I mean, this is just history, right, to you and me? But you do recognize how similar all of this stuff sounds. And you also recognize the question that's being asked, the political question that's being asked. Yohanan is saying to Gedaliah, he's saying, kill him before he kills you, because he's going to kill you. We've got actionable intel, kill him first. I don't know if you know this, but there's a Jewish proverb that says, if somebody's going to kill you, wake up early in the morning and kill them first. It's actually a Jewish proverb. I don't know how old it is. Who knows? Maybe it came from this story, because the rabbis may have noticed. Well, Ishmael, that was not a very bright idea. You know, and Gedaliah, what were you thinking? They had actionable intelligence. Why did you do this? Well, why didn't he do it? Right? I mean, you understand the complexity of this? What if he's wrong? Right? What if he was wrong? What if somebody said, hey, we got to go in there because this is going to happen, and then we go in there and it's wrong. That's not actually the case. Then what? What does that mean? That's not the kind of thing you want to get wrong. Right? So but these are questions that are being asked even now because, let's be honest, we know that the North Koreans have a rocket capable of reaching pretty much anywhere in the United States. We do not know if that rocket is capable of carrying an atomic weapon, because an atomic weapon weighs about a ton. We do not know if they have successfully miniaturized their atomic weapons so they will fit on the top of rockets. We do not know, as far as we can tell, they have not successfully crossed the line from atomic weapons to thermonuclear weapons, because that's a big order of magnitude difference. So we do not know to what extent they actually have. They are an atomic power. We don't know yet if they're a nuclear power. But, I mean, these questions are out there, but we do know that they've come a long ways. And so, preemptive first strike? I think that's called the Bush Doctrine. Preemptive first strike, should we do that? What if we're wrong? Should we wait? Should we attack? Should we wait until we're attacked and only respond in self-defense? How do you make that decision? I'm really glad that I don't work in the Pentagon, because those are really impossible decisions to make. However, when you think about it from the perspective of Gedaliah himself, it's not about the nation, it's about him. It's about him being attacked. Personally, him being attacked. And now that's a question you and I ask all the time. Like, if somebody is unkind to us, do we mouth off to them first so that they can't get us? If somebody criticizes us all the time, do we do a preemptive criticism? How about the locks on our doors? How many locks should we have on our doors? How tightly should we hold our bags when we're walking in the street and there are strangers around us? How careful do we need to be? How appropriate is it? Should we lock our stuff up and add extra locks and security? How should we do this? And I asked the question in part for two reasons. One, because when I was in seminary, I had a seminary professor who actually said he and his wife chose to live in a not great neighborhood and chose not to lock up their place. Won't people steal your stuff? He said, we have chosen not to care about our stuff. We have chosen not to live that kind of life. I lock my stuff up all the time. But ever since that, I keep thinking about Jesus, right? Because what does Jesus do? Jesus actually gives up all security for the sake of salvation. I mean, when he's in front of Pilate, Pilate says, don't you know I can hand you over to be crucified? That's my authority as the Roman governor. Jesus just looks at him and says, yeah, no. Don't you know I have a legion of angels? That means 7,000 angels. I have 7,000 angels that if I call, they're going to come and fight for me. Guess who wins that battle? But he doesn't. He doesn't lock the door. He doesn't call the backups. He doesn't strike preemptively. He does something entirely contrary to the way this world thinks. He spreads his arms wide and allows himself to be crucified for our sake. And so I don't know what's the right way to live. Like my seminary professor? Like Gedaliah? Or is it better to take the path that Johanna recommends? Lock some doors. Make sure you're armed. There's a song by Michael Card that has a line in it, and the line goes like this. Sometimes the questions tell us more than the answers ever will. I don't have answers for you today. I only have questions. Can you find the prayer response? Let's pray that together. Shall I regard others with suspicion, guarding my heart against the possibility of harm? Shall I lock myself behind the deadbolts of my home to protect my possessions? Shall I arm myself to ensure that I am never outgunned? Shall I strike first to guarantee that I am never victimized? These are the questions that haunt me as I tightly clutch my bags in the presence of strangers. These are the questions that haunt me in a world of active shooters and mass killings. These are the questions that haunt me as I ponder a life of love lived in a world of fear. These are the questions I ask you, Lord Jesus. Guide me on the pathway of love, grace, and mercy.